Hello and welcome. I am the Soul Enchantress, and today I would like to speak with you about whether you are driven by fear or are you driven by desire. Okay, let me explain why this is so important and how I see so many human beings making this mistake. Okay, so this is actually inspired because I've seen so many people lately, clients and people in general, I see making this mistake of being driven by fear instead of being driven by desire, and you don't know the difference. Okay, so I'm going to go into what being driven by fear is about, what being driven by desire is about, and then also what happens when you take actions driven by fear and what happens when you take actions driven by desire. Now, as always, everything I speak about is to do with the energetics of any concept, and as you know, that is the realm of my work, and I will also bring all of the energetics back into how it affects your money, business and lifestyle, because as you know, that is what I do. Okay, now the whole driven by fear or driven by desire, and here's the thing, you probably don't know what you are doing or what you are actually energetically driven by, because it might sometimes seem like you're driven by desire, but you could actually be driven by fear when you look at the energetics of it. Or for someone like me who can actually see, hear, smell, taste and feel and I interact in the energetic realms, it is so obvious. It's like staring at a painting as opposed to someone just walking past and not actually seeing the painting at all. Okay, so the secret to finding out whether you are driven by fear or whether you're driven by desire is actually, and by the way, this is a totally channeled message as with everything else, and I was given this to speak about and all of the points that I am making. So the secret to finding out whether you're driven by fear or whether you are driven by desire is actually in the reasons you give for the actions that you take. These could be small, minuscule actions that you think mean nothing, that then compound and make into something over time, into being something big, or a huge action. I have noticed people and clients creating life-changing, business-changing decisions driven out of fear rather than being driven out of desire, and thinking that they were actually creating something or taking that action or decision based on a desire, but they're actually not. Okay, so the reasons you give for why you're taking an action, that is where the secret lies in whether you are being driven by fear or whether you're being driven by desire. Now, when you are driven by fear, let me give you an example. So, what shall I use? Okay, let's use a money example because it seems to be so prevalent at the moment in terms of questions around money. Okay, so money. Now, whether you are saving a sum of money, whether you are spending it on something, whether you are investing it into something, whatever it is that you're doing with any expenditure, anything, before you swipe your credit card, before you hand over a single pound, yen, dollar, whatever your currency may be, ask yourself, is this action driven by fear or is it driven by desire? And you should be able to tell, but however, here's how you tell. So you may be about to buy something or do something, but you're actually doing it because you don't want to go into debt. You're doing it, so you may be spending your savings on something without putting it on your credit card, which would be more beneficial for you in the short term to put it on your credit card and then earn that money and pay it instead of using your cash funds. But you may be putting it and using all of your cash reserves to pay for something instead of putting it on the credit card and keeping your cash reserves because you're afraid of going into debt. Okay, now that is an action driven out of fear. And or maybe you're buying something because you don't want to go without. Okay, this is a fabulous example. Do you remember when there was no toilet paper around the world? Well, all of that was driven by fear. Fear, why? Because you may not have toilet paper. Why were all the supermarket shelves empty? Because people were so afraid they wouldn't have enough. All of their action, all of their spending, everything was driven out of fear. Now, this happens even in relationships. You may decide to leave someone because you can't handle what's in the relationship anymore. It is driven out of fear. That decision, that action is not driven out of a desire, okay? Here's the difference in something being driven out of a desire. When a person is predominantly driven out of desire, everything that they do, it may be that they're leaving a situation or doing something to change what already exists because they're not 100% happy with whatever already exists. However, their reason for taking the actions they take is actually driven out of a desire to create and to become and to experience whatever that new solution is going to bring them. Do you understand the difference? So, for example, in the time where everyone was running and trying to buy everything off the supermarket shelves, someone who was driven out of fear would go and buy everything, whether they like to eat something or not, because they just didn't want to run out of food, okay? But someone who's driven out of desire may have gone and bought the stuff that they love because they want to keep eating that stuff. Do you understand the difference between being driven out of fear and being driven out of desire? Okay, driven by, sorry, not out of. Okay, so those are the two examples. Now here's the energetic reasons for why your actions, every action should be driven out of desire. Because when you take action out of that state of being driven by fear, from that energetic space, even if you practice or do something someone else has done, a technique or a strategy, even if you implement a strategy or a technique that has been successful for so many people or for one person, it will not be successful for you because your energetic force and driver is fear. And also, you will find more often than not, if you go back and look at all the decisions that you made, big and small, in your lifetime, driven by fear, that the end result may not actually be what you wanted. You know how people say they manifest the wrong thing all the time, or be careful what you want because you will manifest it? Well, the whole point of you manifesting something or you experiencing something in your reality that you don't want is because you probably took an action that led to that outcome driven by fear instead of desire. Now, the difference is when you take action from the space of being driven by desire, no matter what your situation is, you are still in a position of where you may not be happy with where you are or who you're with or what you're doing, and you want to change that situation, but you're actually taking action out of a desire to create something new, to actually be with someone new, to become someone new, to experience something amazing than what you are experiencing. So your focus is actually on what you are going to create, and that desire-driven energy that makes you and propels you to take action. Therefore, the journey between where you are now and the journey of your outcome, because there's always a journey to everything, okay? Whether you're driven by fear or driven by desire, you are going to go from where you are now to where you want to be. And that journey will be filled with obstacles if your actions have been driven by fear. And that journey will be one of ease and joy if it is something that is driven by desire, and the outcome will be what you want or even better. And that is the reason why you should focus on being driven by desire and not by fear. So I hope that this has inspired you and empowered you. And when you find yourself being driven by fear, what you need to do is you need to stop. Do not take any action at all, and you need to actually go back and reassess everything in order to change tact and to understand exactly what you should be doing. So for everybody who would like some help, this is all of the work that I do with my clients in the Soul Enchantress Mastermind, and also all of the digital programs that I have on my website, soulenchantress.com. So I hope this inspires and empowers you to always take action driven by your desire instead of by your fears. And if you would like my help, I would love to work with you, and all you would simply need to do is go to my website, soulenchantress.com, and message me from there if you don't know what to choose, and I can point you out. No matter what your budget is, my work is across a whole spectrum of investment points. So wherever you want to start, you can actually start, but you need to want to invest in yourself, okay? You need to be driven by a desire to actually create what it is that you want to create, or become who you want to become, or change your situation, or experience something much more amazing than what you have as your business, lifestyle, or your money. Okay, I wish you so much joy, and I will see you at soulenchantress.com. Joyous blessings.